If you're a podcast host, listen up, this one's for you. My name is Allie Jackson. I'm the host of Finding Mr. Height, a dating and relationship podcast that I've been doing for 4 years now, sharing my positive and practical approach to dating that's built on my own life experience. And I wanted to share another experience that I've had, my secret behind monetizing my show. It's called Red Circle, and I was just telling my colleague about how much I love their platform. With Red Circle, not only am I getting a seamless hosting experience, but I also love the support I receive in ad sales. It's not just typical ad sales either. It's targeted opportunities based on my show and my life. And the platform is super simple. You just set your preferences and Red Circle matches you with sponsors that align with your show. You can vet every opportunity and their platform gives you great analytics. More recently too, my Red Circle team has brought me opportunities outside of my podcast on social media to really augment the podcast partnerships, bring them full circle. I just can't recommend them enough. If you want to give it a try, go to redcircle.com to get your free trial. That's redcircle.com for a free trial.
You're listening to Make It, the indie film podcast.
Hey everybody, Chris here. I want to give a shout out to Factor for sponsoring this week's show. Make this your best season yet with nutritious 2-minute meals from Factor. To get started, go to factormeals.com/make-it50off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. That's code MAKE-IT50OFF at factormeals.com/make-it50off to get 50% off plus free shipping. And now, on to the show. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Make It Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Barkley.
And I'm your host, Nicholas Buggs. And it is so wonderful to be here again, Chris, with you, doing what we do. It's just fun, man. It's just fun to be here.
I need the year to slow down, and I need 2025 to equally bring like surprises of like joy and laughter and riches, as much as it's bringing surprises of tragedy and malfeasance and like all the things. Like I don't know what's going on, but
stop watching the news. I think that's the key for one, and then just find joy in the joyful. Right. That for me, that's just the family, man. Just family and just be. Sit in gratitude. It's just that's my happy place. You know,
I have some thoughts about that.
I'm sure you do.
So I don't watch a lot of news, but I think taking a social media break is great. But there's been like stuff in my like personal life, like this year already. My dog has died. my business partner's wife's dad died. His dad died today. My house flooded. Like, what is happening this year?
Yeah. Well, this is growth. You know, as they say. You know,
but the podcast is doing great.
But listen, even a rose has to go through a little bit of shit, right, in order to grow. So it's okay. You know, and you are a rose, my friend. You'll be just fine.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Hey, so in the good news department, my son moved out of the house today. And I helped him move today. I think that's really great. So you're right. You have to count the things that are going well and give them their due. And one of those things, by the way, is our co-collaborators. Was that a word? Did I just invent a word right there?
I mean, I like collaborators.
Yeah,
there
co-collaborators. You go. Or we could say the word collaborators.
Collaborators is nice.
I like collaborators.
You coined a new term.
A collaborator sounds like something you buy from Lowe's or Home Depot. Put the collaborator on it.
Yeah, put the collaborator on it, bro. It'll just hold it. It'll hold it for you.
Our co-collaborators, intern Sam and producer Paul Bear, say hello.
Hello.
There they go. And our esteemed guest today, Will Parrinello, and the one and only Maria Jose Maho Calderon. Guys, please say hello. And we're going to be calling you Maho for the rest of the episode, by the way.
Hey, it's so great to be here. Thanks for having us on.
Well, it is our distinct pleasure, and you guys are the kind of filmmakers that I so admire, and I know I speak for Nick and Sam and Papa Bear as well. Nick and I, we make silly, fictional movies. And you guys do real heroic documentary work behind the scenes and have done it for 4 decades, in your case, Will, and really are the sort of shining bright star on the hill for like what a filmmaker is and how to spend a life doing it. So we're going to jump into all of that on today's episode. But while I've got you introduced here, got your attention, can you just tell us what we might know you for, what you're excited about now, what you're working on now?
Yeah, I began working in documentary back in 1981. My filmmaking partner, John Antonelli, in the Mill Valley Film Group, and I made a film called Kerouac. We were blown away that no one had made a film about the great beat poet, and we said, we're going to do it. And that took 6 years, and we ended up premiering at Sundance, which was then known as the U.S. Film Festival, pre-Sundance, but it was Sundance. Redford had started it all. And since then, we've made films about baseball in Japan, about sumo wrestling, about being Italian-American, looking at Italian-American identity. So Little Italy, about being Italian-American. Yen for baseball, looking at the difference between Japanese and American baseball. I made a film called Emil Norman by his own design, a gay artist from Big Sur who came out in the 1940s and lived a life because he was in Big Sur, a place that allowed him to live out with his partner. Mustang, Journey of Transformation. It's a Tibetan kingdom that was forgotten by China when China grabbed Tibet because it was in this sort of backwater place. But it was this amazing 14th century kingdom that had been on an important trade route that had all of this incredible money coming through because they were taxing the trade route and they were building these beautiful monasteries. So it was like the equivalent of the Renaissance in Italy that was happening in the Himalayas in Asia at that time. Beautiful wall paintings and statues and so on and so forth. A film called Dreaming of Tibet about Tibetan exiles maintaining their culture. And the culture is sadly stronger in exile because of Chinese repression within Tibet, which is part of China. And maybe that's enough. A series called The New Environmentalist that's on public television that is profiles of grassroots environmental activists who have created incredible change in the world. And in fact, it's through that work, making films about people who received the Goldman Environmental Prize, that we found the 3 protagonists in Water for Life. And so that's kind of that's the broad sweep of the films. I might have left a few out of there, but that's a film about Sam Cooke as well that ended up on American Masters.
So, Chris, you can see that Will just got started in the business. So,
I mean, you have such a beautiful way of describing those films and doing it quickly, because I want to see every one of those, Tibetan films, every one of them right away. And I've seen Water for Life, but I need to go and see all the other ones now. Maho, can you give us a little background on your career?
Sure. I'm originally from Chile. I was born and raised there, South America, next to Argentina. I went to film school there. I studied to be a film director. I worked mostly on narrative films as an intern. And then when I was 21 years old, right after college, I moved to the United States with my boyfriend and now my husband. We're still together. We're here in the Bay Area in Oakland. Yeah. I've been back and forth between here and Chile, always working in films. But when I moved to the Bay Area in 2002, I realized that the documentary scene was way stronger than the narrative film. So I started meeting filmmakers and I don't think it's a coincidence, but I met a person making a film about Chile, a documentary film about Chile, and that was my first entry point to work in documentary films. And it was an investigative reporting feature film about human rights violations in Chile during the dictatorship. Something very close to me because I grew up in a dictatorship until I was 10 years old. So I was an expert on the topic. And since then, I've worked in lots of documentaries. I've always been a freelancer. But I've been super lucky to be able to work in documentaries topics that are important to me, things that I care about, and hasn't been easy because that's not where the money is. And environmental stories, social justice, immigration, all the topics where the money is not. That's where I'm attracted to.
So I would say in 2002 that was premier sort of Michael Moore time, right? Where documentary was not just popular, but it was getting worldwide distribution, theater distribution. I remember seeing Bowling for Columbine and what was the George W. Bush one? I remember seeing that one in theaters, both of them.
Yeah, post 9/11. World changed.
Yeah. And so I think it's changed a little bit today since then. But I could imagine going into documentary around 2002 saying, okay.
This is it.
This is it.
Al Gore's film was wide release. Yeah.
An Inconvenient Truth. Yeah.
Inconvenient Truth. One of the great documentaries. And it's funny, Al Gore's still at it. He's still out there on the beating the path for change and doing a great job at it. I actually think he should run in 2028, but that's just me. Maybe there's others that feel it too, but I think he should.
I want to just interject something because it's interesting, having worked in the field for 40 years, to see how we go through these waves. So when we made the Kerouac film, Sundance, we screened at festivals all over the world. We had a theatrical run. We sold the film 9 times over. It had a PBS broadcast. It was on A&E, which was kind of the non-broadcast alternative at that time. And there were opportunities for documentaries at that point in time. And cable, this new idea, was just coming into the realm of film, not just documentary film. And we were given an opportunity at FilmX, which was then the huge festival in LA. And that's kind of where we ended our festival run. To make a feature film. Someone said, we like your sensibility because we did some dramatizations in the Kerouac documentary. We took his prose and poetry, and we had an actor reading them and acting out some of those scenes. And so we were asked to make a feature film, and someone gave us development money. And after 3 years of being in development, we said, okay, now we understand how you hear these stories of people earning a living, being in development and not making a film.
Oh, wow.
And we'd spent 7 years trying to make the documentary, so it wasn't that we weren't accustomed to that. But the distinction was, in the documentary world, you had to have all the money for anyone to release any of the money. And in the documentary world, if I said documentary, I meant in the feature film world, right? In the narrative world, you had to have all the money for it to be released. And we kept raising half the money and casting the film and never getting to make the film. And so it was kind of a crazy experience. And then by the time we decided we didn't want to do that anymore, the sort of wave of opportunity for us had passed. It was here's this new outlet, cable, and they're looking for content. And then kind of happens with streamers now, as soon as the distributor, if you will, right, and the entity starts developing their own projects and paying for them, and they have their own projects in the pipeline, they're not so interested in having someone come in from the outside. They're not so interested in acquiring something, right? And so that window just kind of sort of slammed shut. So it's interesting how that's happened again, and we missed the second one.
Yeah, we for sure saw that. Yeah, we saw that with Netflix for sure. It's they were buying all sorts of stuff until they weren't.
Until they started making their own stuff. They realized they should be making their own stuff instead of licensing other people's stuff. And Nick and I have talked about on this podcast before that the cottage industry that was sort of born from studio industry is optioning. And that's a whole there's a whole like sort of cast of characters within our space that make a living and pay their bills between projects that are actually released, just getting ideas optioned. And it's basically how you leverage your celebrity and keep your agent and manager paid. I think it's very, very interesting for sure. I do have to ask, Maho, you mentioned this, I think, sort of in your introduction, but is that actually how you met Will? Like, how did you guys meet and become sort of filmmaking and producing and editing partners?
Go for it, Mom.
And did John have a hand in any of this, for Life specifically, the documentary?
Yeah. So after living in the Bay Area for 12 years, I moved back to Chile, and I was working as a foreign correspondent. I mean, just doing whatever. Foreign correspondent, fixer, field producer, to foreign crews that would come to Chile to film documentaries. And then one day got a call from Will. He needed a field producer in Chile to film one of the Goldman stories, to film a profile of an environmental activist in Chile. And I was really excited because that's something that I've been wanting to do, work in southern Chile. I'm from the capital, and there's indigenous communities living in the south. They're fighting for land, water, and just to be autonomous of their land. And so it was a perfect excuse for me to go, because one thing when you're working on films, it's very special. You get to know people and have access to things that as a regular person you wouldn't, or you get to ask questions and just be very curious. And that's something that I love. So yeah, getting paid to go somewhere to an area that being a tourist, you're not welcomed. Having a mission was really exciting for me. And I got to meet the community and eventually became one of the stories of Water for Life. And that was the beginning of our relationship. Then Will traveled to Chile with the crew, and we got to meet personally after working months on Zoom and WhatsApp. And we had a very good chemistry, the whole team. I really enjoyed working with them, and we had a fantastic experience filming in southern Chile. And then when I moved back to the Bay Area, because I've been back and forth, Will needed an editor, and I started helping as an assistant editor, and then eventually I became the editor of the film and one of the producers. And so, yeah, it's been 5 years of a working relationship, and it's been quite a journey. And even though we finished the film, we're still working because there's outreach. There's always more screenings and people that get excited after watching the film, and they want to have another screening here and there, and it's such a blessing. It keeps just like giving and giving.
Yeah, it really is a blessing. But one thing I would say that we learned in the process that we didn't expect is that for every film you make, you marry that movie. You're married to it forever.
That's the truth.
Bring it up. So you will have to pitch it. You will have to talk about it for the rest of your life. So no matter what role you play in a film, if you're above the line on the budget, let's say, like you need to know that you love it, because you are going to need to talk about it until you die. And you're going to have to promote it until you die, and all the things, and track the money until you die. I think that, I don't know if that surprised you, Nick, to the degree that we've had to be married to these things. You know?
No, it's funny because I think you said being married to it, and like Maho talked about 5 years, and it's like, so being engaged for 5 years and then you get married, and then Will was engaged for like 12 years, 13 years on this film. Like it's been going on for a very long time, and he formed this relationship. And you're right. I mean, it's either you're married to it or you birthed it. Yeah. Right. And I tend to think about it as you're birthing it, because it's, in a marriage, I feel like there's this. Well, yeah, it is. It can be tough. But the way I see it is like in a marriage, you might actually have a partner who's helping you out. Right. Whereas when you're birthing this, now you have to take care of it. And I think that's where you are. It's like you're taking care of this film. You're taking care of the legacy. You're taking care of the people, especially in a documentary. You're taking care of their legacy as well. So there's this child that you have to take care of forever. And, you know, how much energy and time you put into it, that will show you what you're going to get out of it. So
I'd like to just say that Maho became an important partner on the film and an ally. And I really think of her as my sister because she cared. And there are a lot of people who worked on the film who cared, but she took it to another level. And in part because she came in through that story in Chile that mattered to her. And she got to connect to the Mapuche indigenous community that we featured. And Maho's incredibly humble, so I'm going to toot her horn. When she came to the United States, she went to UC Berkeley and she got her master's in journalism. That was no small thing, right? And then that first film she worked on, The Judge and the General, Elizabeth Farnsworth. She's won every award in journalism. She used to be a correspondent for the NewsHour. It used to be called McNeil Laird when she was doing it. And then she went out on her own. And that film was huge, right? And when Maho came back from Chile to the United States right around the time of COVID, she was looking for work. She got a job doing a piece for Frontline about migrant workers who were having to work during COVID and the kind of treatment they had, or the mistreatment or lack of treatment, right? And just the conditions. So I'm tooting Maho's horn and just saying, I saw in her commitment to the stories, and in terms of her becoming the editor, she did the first rough assembly. So imagine 12 years of footage. We would raise enough money to go back and film. We knew what we wanted to go and film, but of course what you want and what you film in a documentary world don't always coincide. And we would come back, we would view all the footage, we would log it, we would cut a new fundraising reel, and then we would do other work to earn a living. You know, we don't have trust funds. We're not wealthy. We have to work to earn a living. And so we would have to raise money, writing grants, meeting wealthy people who wanted to donate to the cause, and then go back and film again. Well, we had 12 years of footage that we'd never completely sat down and looked at. And the Ford Foundation came in and gave us money. Chi Wei Huang, who was oh my goodness. Chi Wei Huang, who was the head of Just Films at that time, now he oversees all of the arts at Ford Foundation. I know I'm not getting his title exactly right. But Chi Wei said, I know where you guys are at. I understand. I've made films. If you need to go away and not talk to us for the next year, don't even think about it. Go into the edit room and just do what you need to do. I know you're going to make a great film. I literally had tears in my eyes because no one had ever given us the money that they gave us, and no one had ever completely believed in us to that extent. And Maho, the point of this story is getting back to Maho. Maho did the first rough assembly, and she cut 3 one-hour films that were mind-blowing. And we said, guess what? We're not making an hour-long film. This has got to be at least 90 minutes. And so that was incredible that she absorbed all that material and came back in relatively quick order. I mean, I think it was 2 months per story. You probably remember better than I am. Was it less? There you go. 1 month.
And during COVID, there wasn't that many things to do.
Well, I still have a ton of respect for that. And this is mostly for the audience, but there is a world of difference between editing for narrative and editing for documentary. And if you are making a documentary film and you're going to go find an editor, do your best to try to find a documentary editor. Don't just get an editor, because just because you can edit narrative does not mean you can edit documentary. And a really good editor will admit it. They'll just say, hey, I don't do documentary. And shout out to Denise Green, who told us, for any time you spend filming, you usually need double to edit it. In this case, you didn't need 24 years to edit it. So really great job to you, Maho. But yeah, the edit in a documentary is so long because you have to pull research from the library. You have to try to make a story out of this footage. And on top of that, Will, just to give you some kudos, watching the film, you're going to be blown away just by the technical expertise in it. there are shots that are flat out gorgeous. Take your breath away, flat out gorgeous images of Chile and the countryside there and the water, and it really gives you a sense of being there. And Chile and I don't know, Maho, if you want to expound on this, it's a very unusual country in terms of its border. I don't know if there's any country like it on planet Earth where it has to be so vastly different in the north of Chile than the south. And the south just looks like a million islands. Yeah, Alaska.
It's like Alaska. It's from Alaska to Baja California, but if you invert it, so southern Chile. It's like Alaska.
Good analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's hard to understand how to even, I don't envy the government there. I don't know how you govern a country that's shaped that way. How you get anywhere quickly enough to be there in an emergency. I don't know. Maybe you can speak to it, because I'm just opining.
Very long country, but it has a very relatively small population. It's like 19 millions now.
Oh.
It's like less than LA. I don't know, half of Mexico. In the whole country. So not every part of the country is super populated. It's mainly almost half of it is in the capital. But it is a strange country. I mean, I'm not going to start talking about Chile, but I invite everyone to go. It's beautiful. Not because it's my country, but I think it's the most beautiful place on earth because it has everything, right?
That beauty, Chris, is what I think is really what struck me.
Yeah. And
the reason for that, again, those shots were amazing. And even the shots inside the homes, because when you look at, the indigenous folks, what I often see in documentaries is there's this depiction that they have less. Right. That's it. It's like that people are impoverished. Mm-hmm. So there's a difference between having less and really being impoverished. Right. It's kind of like when I was watching it, I didn't feel that they didn't have enough. I felt like they were happy with what they had. Like this was family around a table. Right. This was them walking outside into this green, lush land that they wanted for their families and for their next generations. That's what I felt. I never really felt that sense of them not having, other than the fact that you had these people who are, the antagonists here trying to take from them. Mm-hmm. But that's the beauty of it that I saw. Like, no, these are families. These are real people. And they're not asking for more, right? They're asking for what they have and to be left alone. And I think for me, that was the beauty of the film.
Thank you for understanding that and for articulating that so beautifully, because that touches our heart. That's what we were trying to do. And, I think that all of our protagonists would tell you, we're happy with our lives. Do we want better education for our children? Of course. Do we wish that there was better health care? Yes. Do we wish the government didn't mistreat us? Of course. No question. But we're happy living our lives. And not only the family bond, but the community bond. There's a tightness there and a cohesion that's so appealing and so incredible. And we were lucky to get, inside of that, to be welcomed in. It's also one of the reasons that it took so many years, because in order to be welcomed in, you have to keep showing up, and you have to not always have the camera on your shoulder and say, we have to capture every moment. There are things that you have to just let go by the wayside because it's not appropriate yet. You haven't been invited, or you've asked and you were told no, and you have to accept that. And that's not always easy. I would be lying if I said that's always easy, but it's the only way you can make a film like this. And so, the visuals that you're talking about, our cinematographer, director of photography, Vicente Franco, one of the best in the documentary world. He's from Madrid, but he's lived in the United States for 35 years. The film was shortlisted for an IDA award for feature documentary for 2024, and his cinematography was noted for good reason, I think. And we also worked with people within each country who filmed for us when we couldn't be there. So we had incredible partnerships, like the partnership with Maho that turned into her becoming producer with myself and Rick Tejada Flores, our other esteemed producer. And she became the editor. We had people in every country working with us who were field producers, who were cinematographers and sound recordists, because we needed to keep covering the stories when we couldn't be there, and because we needed to have partners who understood the story, the place, the culture. We didn't. It's not our place. And so how do we as outsiders, interlopers, come in and feel like we're not just taking pictures, we're not there to take something away? How can we give something back? And I would say probably the most rewarding thing about the film being completed and out there in the world, for me personally, and I think I speak for Maho and Vicente safely, because they're the ones who were in the field with me, is that our protagonists and their families and communities said we did it, we did them right. The film depicts their lives. It's difficult for them to watch too often because it's painful. We also captured the pain and the struggle, and that's really difficult, but that's what makes it strong. That's why audiences respond to it, right? That's why it's an important film from that perspective, because we see what we're doing as American citizens, as a U.S. government, as corporate entities, and it's multinational corporations that are going in and exploiting the natural resources and not paying attention to the people's rights and not caring about anything other than money. And you know, to your point, Nick, the people in the film would say, we don't want more, we want less. We want you to understand that you need to consume less because you're consuming the earth to a point of destruction. And look at what you have done. Look at what we have done. And how do we fix that? We fix that by having less. Well, that's not the culture we live in, right? That's a difficult message. I could get canceled for that in this current administration.
Yeah, right. Well, you know, before we get to some audience polls, I have to ask. You know, Maho mentioned the sort of the shallowness of the population across the country. Two-part question. Does that lack of population sort of send up a flare to ne'er-do-wells, governments, corruption, et cetera, that says, hey, we can take these resources. We have a handful of people we have to topple. It's not a very populated place. It's just sitting there. Is like the thing that makes it beautiful and unique, also the thing that makes it vulnerable. And then secondly, with a film like this, where so many of the audiences that have the ability to help and raise the red flag, being thousands of miles away, maybe not even living in Chile, right? Most likely not living there. How do you get them to care and take action? What's the plan for that?
Good questions. Yeah. First answer, yes, there's not that many people, so sometimes it's hard to know whether there's a company that comes and start exploiting or exploring for minerals, or they might start building a hydro project without permits. This is the usual modus operandi, the way they work. But I think the root of the cause is that Chile is a country that was colonized. So first was, and you see this in the film and its history. First, the Spanish came, they took a bunch of gold and richness, and then it's the government of Chile. But it wasn't until the 1970s, after the coup, 1973, Pinochet's coup, that resources began to get privatized. And that's really the main problem. That's where things got really messed up, not just for the indigenous communities, but for all of us, because water got privatized. Chile is the only country in the world where water, 100% of the water is privatized. What does it mean? It means that if you live by a river, the water that flows in the river, you cannot use. Someone owns it. Someone bought the stocks to that water, or the underwater. If you buy land, the underwater water also you cannot use. Also, healthcare was privatized, Social Security, all the main companies like electricity, everything. So it's a country run by corporations. So they're using the country as a company. So that's the main problem. That even though people might want to stop a lot of the projects, it's really hard because they're privately owned or they're in private lands. But before there were private lands, most of the lands were indigenous lands. So these communities are reclaiming what's theirs. And it's not easy. They're putting their bodies on the line. They're like sacrificing everything. Like it was really humbling for me that I always felt like an environmentalist, and I care about the world. I try to not consume a lot and think about where the things that I buy come from. Make sure that they're fair trade, organic, or support small businesses. But there's a point where you realize the people that are really like risking their lives to protect the river. That's a whole another level. So my deepest gratitude to people that are doing that work, and I just feel so lucky to be able to help tell those stories. And for people that are going to see this film, I think for me, more than just caring about Chile, is to see the similarities that are happening to the places where they live, here in the Bay Area or the Central Valley, East Coast. There's a lot of native communities here that are fighting the exact same kind of problems here in the United States. So it's to realize the film shows a pattern that it doesn't always apply just to Latin America or Africa. You'll say like the global South, the poor countries, it's also happening here. And just to end that idea, if people want to learn more about it, I think, and a lot of people think, that Chile was kind of a test of what is starting to happen here in this country.
That's exactly what I was thinking, because I didn't think about water, but I thought about the great documentary by Andy Garcia's wife, Future of Food, and where slowly but surely Monsanto has bought up and privatized seed. And so I think the ultimate chess move there is, you can't grow food without paying us. You can't have a garden at your house. Are you growing tomatoes? Those are our tomatoes. We have the rights to those tomatoes. And that's happening now.
Exactly.
That's been happening for some time.
Today,
Yep.
And so I think that's an incredible answer to the question, which is, why take action seeing a film about a country that's so far away? It's because the reason it's so far away is because they want to test it out where you don't notice it, so they can bring it to your shore.
Think globally, act locally.
Yep.
I want to just address something that Nick asked specifically. It's how do you get people to care? I mean, what I've learned is when you tell real stories of real people's lives and you show their lives, we care about them. And suddenly we have a stake in it, right? We have a stake in their struggle, and it makes it real. Otherwise, it's this abstract, right? To a lot of people in the United States, the environment, protecting the environment is an abstract. I recycle, I compost, I make a donation to the Sierra Club. Those are all good things. I'm not suggesting they're not. But we're talking about people who are doing much more, right? And there are people of the earth. And so their spirituality leads them to a place where everything on the earth is sacred. And so they would say first, and not so much protect and defend. They'll get to that point, but it begins with respect. You have to respect the earth. So, when we hear these horrible stories about hundreds of people being killed, annihilation in Gaza of the Palestinian people, it's not that we don't care. We're horrified and shocked, but it's abstract. If you suddenly know that person who was killed, if you know that family, the mother and her 2 children, then it suddenly becomes real. And so that's the strength in the kind of storytelling that we've learned how to do. And that's why you have to make that commitment of time, because you only get close enough to be able to reveal what is really happening in someone's life by building trust and spending days, weeks, months, and years.
Yeah.
That was true for me, Chris. I was going to say that was true for me with COVID. because just because the idea that people were dying from COVID, it was abstract, because I knew people who, had COVID. At one point I got COVID, right? And it's like, it's a really bad cold and it just sucks. And then you get over it. And it's just like, it's not as bad as it seems. You hear it, you know it.
Yes.
And then I had a neighbor die from COVID.
Yeah. Then it got real.
Just changes your whole perspective on things when it's that close to you, and you have a relationship with not only the person, but now a new relationship with that disease. So I totally hear you. It's like, if you can actually, I'll just say, empathize, if you have a reason, a grounding in the empathy associated with something, then it changes the nature of your call to action. So I'm totally with you on that, Will.
I've got friends that are like, you got the vaccine? I'm like, yeah, I got the vaccine. So why'd you get the vaccine? I said, man, I waited a year and a half. I said, here's what happened. DJ Scooby died.
Yeah.
He's a local DJ on my hip hop radio station. I was like, man, he was my age and my weight and my race. And I'm like, if DJ Scooby can die from this, I can die from this. And
that's right.
Now, in retrospect, would I have taken it? I've said so many times, no, I wouldn't. Not in retrospect. But in the moment, you can't judge the decision. There's a guy that looks like me that just died. I'm going to take my chances with this versus that. And that was a completely logical and good decision, in my opinion. And by the way, I've got no issues. So there's been no health issues, knock on wood, based on that, for all the tinfoil hat folks out there. And I will say to the point Will made, very specifically to philanthropy, I would have people come to me and want me to give money, and I have all the time, to these things. And at some point, me and my wife got together and we said, well, how do you really do this? And so we started going to Guatemala and Honduras and actually building houses with our hands-on. So instead of giving money and having someone else go do it, we wanted to go do it. So it's exactly right. Like,
whatever, Chris, you can make it personal. I recycle and I compost.
Let me tell you something. I think the composting might be more effective. The recycling, as it turns out, is a grift.
There's a whole thing.
But you know what's crazy? I still recycle. I still do it, even though I know it's not doing what they told me it was going to do. I still dedicate my Saturday morning to it.
I want to just say hats off.
It's like blind hope.
But hats off to you and your wife for going down into Central America and helping out and having that real world experience. When I meet young filmmakers who want to make documentaries and want to make documentaries along the lines of the films that we've made, I say, well, you should travel. Like, you should go. And number one, you need to learn a foreign language. You need to go spend some time, do a service project, go work for some NGO, join the Peace Corps, whatever it is, just to have that kind of experience, because that's where you start to get this depth of knowledge and understanding. It's as important in education as anything that I ever learned in a classroom. And I'm not putting down the classroom, that's equally important. But that's where it's at, right? And then it became real for you. You have an appreciation of what those people who you worked with are going through in those communities, and you care as a result. And as I said, I don't want to demonize someone. There are some people who know they're only going to give money, and there's nothing wrong with that, because it helps if they choose wisely and give to a good organization. So.
And I can't do it. I can't do it, Will. I've got too many food sensitivities. I just.
He does. This is true. He has he's an absolute nightmare to go to.
Yeah, it's just the truth. I just remember going to the south of the border. I mean, we were like in El Paso, and then it's like, oh, you step across the border, you're in Mexico, and it's like, hey, my buddies, they knew what they were doing, and they were like, hey, Nick, we're gonna go and we're gonna do some stuff, and we're gonna bring back some food. So they bring back the food, and I'm like, oh, cool, I'm grubbing, man. This stuff is so delicious. I'm tearing it up. I think I bit my finger. It was so good, And then all of a sudden, my stomach said, Bad idea, bro. Bad idea. So as I'm struggling for the rest of the night, they're laughing because they're looking at the video of where they got the food from. They're like, it's a food truck on the side of the corner next to a ditch, street food. I'm like, man, y'all knew.
Got some street,
but everybody else was fine and they all had a great time. And that's what I say. I would love to do it, man. And I would go learn that other language, but too many sensitivities, man. I can't do it.
That's okay. It's not
you don't have to go to another country. This country is huge. There's so many stories.
It was a superpower for you, Nick, and now
but there you go. Maho just said it. She just said it. That's the key, is that I don't have to go to another country. There's so much to do right here that I could be impactful. And
she just doesn't want you to feel bad, Nick.
No, it's needed.
She's a beautiful, sensitive soul.
I wanted to say something from before. I wanted to say that I think the reason why character-driven documentaries do so well is because you can connect with somebody. Not just it's not a soundbite only or someone speaking in camera, but you spend time with them and you get to know them. And I think that beautiful films, it doesn't really matter the topic. I mean, it's important, but it's more about getting to know something or showing something special. And you get that access by spending time with the community or the person or whatever you're portraying in your film. And I think I've seen amazing films where it's just about one person in one room, or it can be a trip from here to Chile. I mean, there's no formula. You have to use your creativity, and I think this country is like a whole world, literally, there's people from all over, and this country needs some love and needs people to tell good stories, because everyone's a little down right now. There's uncertainty, not just here, the whole world right now, and it's everywhere. I have friends here that complain about certain things. Sometimes even my daughter can see that because she grew up in Latin America, and she's like, oh my God, they're complaining about things. They're so minuscule. Not that important, small.
Yes.
Compared to other people that are struggling to find drinkable water, or if you're a girl, you can't go to school, or if you're a woman, you have no rights. Well, also here it's the same, but there's a lot of material to tell stories.
There is.
We should tackle some of them, Nick. I think at some point, it's one of the phenomenons. I was just talking to Jason Padgett, executive director of the National Film Festival, about this yesterday. If you had money before this administration, you have more money right now. That's just the fact. You have more money, but they're not spending it because the administration is so unpredictable that they don't know when the other shoe is going to fall. So they're not willing to spend this money that they've earned. I mean, if you had money before the administration, you might have double now, but they're not spending it. So I think it's an interesting thing. Maybe we can dive into more about filmmaking, but dive into more later for the filmmakers listening to this, I should say. But before we do that, I think it's time for some audience polls.
Oh, Sam.
I'm ready. We got good ones tonight here.
All right, let's go, Sam.
Very, very interesting polls. So we're going to kick it off.
Poll.
That's what I'm saying. We're going to kick it off with a question that I think now is a little bit more kind of firmly cemented. I don't know if it's as much up for debate, but there was definitely a period of time where this was something that was a hot button issue, or at least definitely a question that was being asked. But are documentaries films? So,
okay.
Luckily, and I'm happy to report, 60%
only
said yes,
60?
Of course. That's what's interesting. So I'm happy that it's leading the charge, but only 60%.
So what if they're okay? Go ahead. Sorry, I'm jumping the gun.
Yeah. Slow down, Nick. Slow down.
I will.
So kinda maybe was 28%. So the halfway, and then no way they are not 12%. So
I just don't understand. Then what is it then? If it's not a film, then what is it? That's the part that kills me. I'm like, what is it then?
It's a documentary. What?
That's what I'm saying.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I just said I don't get it, and maybe that's the difference. It's like maybe people are thinking about films like they're just supposed to be candy.
Well, that's
right.
That's I think
so. If it's not candy, if it's not just hyper entertaining, then no, it's not a film. Right, it's not making me happy. It's not. It's like that's not what film is.
It's not a main line of dopamine. Right. It's. I think they might be losing the plot between kind of what is a movie, right, versus a film. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
But it's also a movie.
It's not. No, right. I agree, but it's not Avengers, and I think that people might think, oh my gosh, that is a movie. You know what I mean? And they don't fully understand the scope of it. So
yeah, it's on one hand we can rejoice that 60%, the majority of people by the way, our audience are film people. So this isn't like poll taken from the general population. These are people that aspire or are in filmmaking. So at least the majority believe a documentary is film. The fact that 40% are like in some other
somewhere else
is depressing. Will, Maho, thoughts on this?
I mean, I think some people look at documentaries and they think that they're more like news, journalism perhaps, and they make some kind of a distinction. I don't, I mean, our film was informed by journalism, but it's not a journalistic film per se, but we abided by the canons of journalism in terms of the way we told our stories and our ethics and so forth. I think that's part of it. And I think it's something that Sam was alluding to, that I think a lot of people, I have some friends and family members who are conservative. And my wife will say she's very, how can you still be close to them? Well, they're my friends from my childhood and they're my family. And we can agree to disagree. And I can still actually love them. They are still human beings. So, come on. Like, where are we going to be if we all want to kind of just demonize each other to the nth degree? We have to start talking. But I think that a lot of people feel like documentaries are propagandistic. It's fake news. So I think there's some kind of reaction to that. I'm not suggesting that's your audience, but I don't know. I'm not sure, but I know that that's part of what I hear. A childhood friend saw the film, thought it was really well done, was moved, and he said, I think it's really wonderful that you're still idealistic. And I wasn't sure if that was a compliment or how to take it. And I tried to get him to unpack it. And he said, well, you have hope. And I said, how else is there to be in the world, right? The Dalai Lama, who I've been lucky to interview 3 times and spend a little bit of time with, would say, there is no path to hope. Hope is the path. And it doesn't mean that you're an airhead walking around, everything's great and it's going to be great. I'm not suggesting that. It's steeped in some form of realism and reality. But, we want to try to find stories that have meaning to people's lives, that show the struggle and that show the triumph. And, and to give hope and to say, hey, communities coming together can create positive change in the world. So I don't know. I kind of way diverged off of the question, but that's my response.
No. You hit it on the head, man. I think, and what's interesting about that is the hope part, because how can you not be a hopeful person when you see the manifestation of hope in those communities, right? Because you have to hope when you have little. You have to hope when you have nothing, right? So, but the other part of it is that I think hope absent love does not triumph. So what happens is that they have hope. They express that hope through the love of the earth, the love of each other, the love of the community. And oddly enough, with the very little resources that they have, they are able to topple governments, multinational corporations.
Yeah.
How can that not make you idealistic and hopeful? And, you're living it. And I think that's the difference, is that you live that experience. He just has a small window into it. So, you will always be the hopeful, idealistic person that you are, because you see this firsthand.
Preach.
I mean, Maho's been involved with our work with the Goldman Environmental Prize. Every year they recognize 6 grassroots environmental activists from around the world who have achieved this seemingly unachievable goal. If there are 6 who won, that means there's probably 30 that were nominated that were equally deserving, and hundreds more who no one knew about. But the media in our country is more about conflict, and it's more about, it's not so much about those kind of positive stories of people creating change. I think there's this tendency for the media to make us feel like we're isolated, and like we're it's the individual.
Social media important. For sure will.
Yeah, right? Whereas it's all about the collective. I mean, you want to create change in the world? Get together with a group of like-minded friends and start going out and doing something, and you'll see that, you guys are both very articulate, charismatic people. If you wanted to change something, I'm convinced you would make it happen. And Maho, you've seen it as much as I have, and in your work before we started working together.
Yeah. Well, I was going to just echo what you said, that, you could make a film on your own, but it would be extremely hard, maybe a personal film. But even to make a successful film, you need a crew. And it's a labor of love, and it requires time. Or if you want to defend, let's say, a watershed next to where you live, you also need to get together with other people. And that was the most inspiring thing for me working in this project, seeing these communities, as you said, like people with so little resources getting together. They don't have internet. At least the community in Chile where they live, there's no running water. There's no bathroom with water. There's no supermarket nearby. There's no public transportation, internet, but they want to live there because that's their land. So they have that connection, and they're so determined to protect it that they get together with other people. And it's hard because it's hard to work with other people sometimes, but it's the only way to make any kind of change. And it's so much gratifying when you do things with other people, I think. And that's one thing that I miss living here in this country, because I work mostly from home on my own, and it can get very, very isolating, and you kind of lose perspective. You feel like you're the only person in the world, and all the problems evolve around yourself, and just need to get out and interact with people, and hopefully that's not the trend. I mean, sadly, that's not the trend, but I think that's where we should all go, to work in collaboration again and just help one another more. I mean, it sounds cliche, but it is the only way.
Well, I think things get cliche because they're true. It's when things tend to turn cliche when they tend to be true. And I think it's a wonderful affront to being bombarded by sort of technocrats all the time, and technology that does isolate. Although it does bring a degree of joy and access and speed of work and efficiency and things like that. But we have to buffer against the downside. By the way, shout out to the Dalai Lama, who is on the record saying that he likes Will more than Richard Gere. And
he doesn't even know who I am. I'm sure of that. He would recognize me. If he saw that profile, he would remember me.
And the whole response reminded me of something Tyler, the Creator, just said recently, which is that to make great art, you have to be delusional. It's a prerequisite for creativity is the delusional belief that you can make something that doesn't already exist. And to me, that's a form of hope. Sam, drop poll number 2 on us.
Oh, he's got another one. Let's go.
Drop that poll on us.
I got 2. Yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
I prepare. I know. We're not phoning it in. All right, Nick. All right. Okay, so poll number 2. what type of documentary do you watch the most of? So what type, pretty self-explanatory, what genre, what focus? Coming in at number one, kind of interesting, honestly, but I think for the volume of documentaries made, but historical, 61%. Then pop culture is number two at 18%, so a steep fall off.
Steep fall off,
yeah.
Followed by social justice at 11%. And then finally, science and technology at a measly 9%.
It should be intentionally inversed from bottom to top. Read them again. Read the results again.
Okay.
So let me make sure.
He said should be, but it's just interesting, right? That's the results.
Historical number 1, pop culture 2, environmental 3.
Social justice.
Or social justice 3.
Yep.
And then 4 is what?
Science and technology.
Science and technology. Okay, maybe it shouldn't be inversed, but everything should be closer. Like there shouldn't have been a giant drop off. In my mind. I don't know, Nick,
well, I'm curious, Chris, is it just a matter of how much content is actually out there? Is it easier to make an historical film because of the content that you can put together to make that, and maybe you don't have to live the experience, right? So there's more historical documentaries out there. Yeah. And then as you go down the list, it gets more difficult.
It's more affordable. It's easier. It's easier in pre-pro, even though it might be harder in post. Like, because if you do a historical film right, like your post is going to be an absolute bear. Yeah. Right. But the, I don't
know. Maho has thoughts, man. No, I want to hear Maho's thoughts.
I'm thinking about this.
Historical archival research, buying archival gets really expensive. Can get expensive.
True.
Well, I think both of these polls made me think of the film All the President's Men. Mm-hmm. That's a historical one, but it could have been a documentary.
Yeah.
If you take Water for Life and you write that story and you cast some actors to perform the story, would Hollywood buy it? And then does it become a movie and a film as opposed to a documentary?
I think Hollywood would buy it, especially if you make it epic enough. Like, what was the one what Scorsese did with DiCaprio, Sam, last year before?
Killers of the Flower Moon?
Killers, yeah. It could be like Killers of the Flower Moon.
There's enough conflict. There's enough conflict over time in each of the stories in Water for Life that each of them could be their own narrative feature, for sure.
Yeah, and with great casting, right? Of course, and the good name director. Here comes the financing. It doesn't have to be that way, but that's kind of the way it would end up happening on some level. It's interesting. I saw a documentary a couple of weeks ago at Docklands Film Festival. It's a local film festival here in Northern California. The Mill Valley Film Festival, opposite in the calendar year from the Mill Valley Festival, is Docklands. A lot of festivals do that. SF Film now does that, the San Francisco Film Festival. Yeah. And the starman was this gentleman who was an astrophysicist who had worked at NASA for many years. And I highly recommend that you see it because he's such an engaging human being who at age 83 or 84 has more energy than all of us put together. And this is not a low energy group. And he's talking about his belief in the future because as a scientist, he was always looking for answers. So he has one of the most creative minds I've ever spent 90 minutes with. That's how exciting he was. It was almost, this shows, cynicism creeping in. It was almost too good to be true at times, thinking, where's the rub? Is he going to finally break down or not be a nice person? Not at all. But I thought of him because I asked the question in the Q&A, given your hopefulness, and that the film kind of went there, but not exactly, in reference to climate change and what appears to be our disbelief that this is a reality in our lives. What can we do, and where do you see the hopeful path? And he said, well, for starters, we need elected officials who aren't science illiterates. that's part of the issue, that people literally don't believe it because they don't even understand science. And that's the starting place. So he talked about local action. Start getting people elected in your community, the school board, and let's emphasize science in the schools. And then statewide, let's make sure the Department of Education allocates more money, right? Science budgets cut. What do we know? The government's cutting all these. We won't even go down that road because it's overwhelming, right?
Yeah.
But all the funding being cut, the EPA and National Health. I'm drawing a blank on the name of our
National Institutes of Health.
Yeah, thank you. And science, right? National Institute of Science and NEH and so forth. So science, right? And I think maybe that's perhaps why there's not as much interest in science films, because it's been de-emphasized and education has been kind of dumbed down in America, because it's easier to have a populace who you can lead around by the nose if they're not aware of what's happening. And if they want to only watch entertaining, we used to call it the e-ticket ride in Disneyland, right? The big expensive ride, e-ticket movies that take you on a big ride. Like we all like mindless entertainment sometimes, but if that's all we have, it's like eating too much junk food, right? We have a nation.
That's what I tell my kids all the time. Yeah, it's like it's junk. You are what you consume. I say that it's like it's not you are what you eat. You are what you consume, and you consume through many different ways: your eyes, your ears, your mouth. So that I'm with you. You can't have too much junk.
Preaching again.
Yeah, man. That's hey. Yes or yes.
What is swallowed up?
What
I've never been swallowed up.
Just Chris
I feel swallowed up right now. I feel swallowed up by Nick's preaching right now. It's too good. It's too good. I caught the Holy Ghost just then. I don't even know what to say about it. Oh my God.
Okay. No, just don't start speaking in tongues, bro.
Yeah, man. No, you're right though, and I love that you've always said that too. That's not like a new take. Like that's like something you've lived by, and it's proven out through your life. And I think you can just walk around as an example of that, and it's like really sort of, I would say, paid off. I mean, I could just look at you and see and watch your life and see how that ethos has played out. And look, there he's wearing a T-shirt that says "Be the Change." Shout out to Gandhi. On that. And by the way, shout out to Sam. Sam, thank you for those audience polls. They were delicious and controversial. Well, seriously, the reason I had issue with it is that my favorite, one or two of my favorite documentaries are historical documentaries. So it's not that I want to push down historical. It's just that I think some of those other ones should have been competing a little bit more, because some of them are practical things that are on the ground today. To Will's point, it's like, at some point, where do we reset the benchmark and the standard for what we want as a society? I was taught, I went to journalism school as well, Maho, and, in copywriting, you're taught, hey, people read on a 5th grade level. People read on a 4th grade level. So write to that. At some point, I have to say to myself, you know what? No. You know what? I'm not going to. I'm going to write at an 8th grade level.
Make them look that word up.
And if they don't know it, if they don't know the word, damn it. Yes, exactly, PB. They can look it up. And they can AI it now, right? It's already doing the work for you. I'm not going to write down to you anymore for profit, because that's what it's about. It's like, if you want to be profitable, do not use a word that a 4th grader couldn't read. That is a industry standard in copywriting. Okay? Now I'm on the soapbox, Nick. Dadgummit, and I need you to press the button.
Hey, no.
But that's where
you're playing
with
to the
it.
lowest common denominator. Yes. That way you can hit everybody from the bottom up. It's smart. It makes sense.
It's smart. It makes sense. But at some point you have to draw a line at these elected officials. Okay? That's all. You just have to say, at some point, you have to have a certain degree of understanding to be in contention. And we lost that. We went for the stardom. We went for the thing that makes us feel good. We went for the junk food, Nick. And we've done it a few times. So it's not just about now. We've done it a lot of times, and you have to reset the benchmark where the person that holds any particular office is somebody you would want to be, somebody you're proud of.
I mean, it's just been so unbelievable. Again, watching swings, these curves that happen in our lives from 8 proud years as an American, for the first time as a voting adult, to be proud of Barack and Michelle Obama in the White House and what they represented. Articulate, smart, caring people trying to build consensus, right? Yeah. And like belief and where we're going to go as a nation. And then here's the flip side. I mean, it's like that backlash. Maybe we don't need to go there on this show, but it's just really disappointing and sad.
YouTube hates when we do, Will.
Right, yeah.
Feel free to cut this out if you have to.
Which again, is part of the problem, right? Again, YouTube, you're also part of the problem. Love you, but you're also part of the problem because of this.
Like Will said, we can differ, but we can still love.
We can still love. That's it. Yeah. Let's pay some bills. Yeah. In the entertainment industry, there is a catch-22 all creatives must handle. How do I get hired without experience? But how do I get experience without getting hired? Well, the film crew technology team at Columbia State Community College in Franklin, Tennessee, great campus. I've been on this campus many times. It is fantastic. They provide the experience, training, and knowledge to step into the entertainment workforce, continue on in higher education, or ideally both. The Film Crew Technology Certificate allows you to work in the industry while getting your degree. Here's what the training includes: set safety and etiquette, pre-production, production, post-production, delivery. From pre to post, the Film Crew Technology trains below-line workers in tools of their trade, from cinema cameras to like the ARRI Alexa 35. If you don't know, that's a badass camera. Awesome. To a loaded 3-ton grip truck, from sound recording to a pre and post-production computer lab, Film Crew delivers hands-on experience. Columbia State Community College is accredited by the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools. That's pretty cool. And in addition, financial aid is available for those who qualify, including TN Promise and TN Connect. Now, that's for people in Tennessee. If you're from outside Tennessee, you can still come here and get a great film education. It is one of the best film schools you can go to in the country. And it's very quiet. You don't know about it. It's not USC. It's not NYU. But you are going to get a great education here, and for, I would argue, much, much less money or debt. So enrollment begins each fall semester, so you have a little bit of time to get yourself together, make this decision. Here's the key. Space is limited to 20 students each year. So just 20 students each year get to be part of this program. So think about it, but don't think too long. 20 students. Apply now. For more information, you can reach out to our guy, one of our favorite guys, David Smith. He's the FCT program director. He wants to give you, now he's an insane guy. He wants to give you his phone number and his email address. Here it is, 615-790-4410. You can also email him at david.smith@columbiastate.edu. That's david.smith@columbiastate.edu. Check out the Film Tech program at www.columbiastate.edu/FCT. Do that now.
What's up, people? Now, I got something for you. I want you to make it. See what I did there? You like that? I want you.
I kind of like it.
You like that? You see, make it your best season yet. Now, what does that mean? Make it your best season yet. Your best nutrition and health season yet with what? Nutritious 2-minute meals from Factor. That's right. Factor is sponsoring this episode, and we appreciate that because eating well has never been this easy. With Factor, you just heat it up and enjoy, which gives you more time to do what you want. Filmmaking, hanging out with family, friends, or more importantly, watching us do what we do. But check it out. Factor has 45 weekly options, all right, on their menu. You can pick from gourmet meals that fit your goals. You can choose from Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, Keto, and more. Factor powers your day with satisfying breakfasts, on-the-go lunches, premium dinners, and guilt-free snacks. Now, the snacks are awesome because I know we're always struggling to find the right snack when we're trying to eat healthy. And, of course, they have desserts. It's easy to save time and save more money as you're getting into Factor because those meals pack in the flavor and they're actually a very good price. So I know, Chris, you're loving on these Factor meals just as much as I am. I'm over here talking. What do you got, man?
I'm loving on them. That can be taken a lot of different ways, but I think I know what you mean. Shout out to Factor though, because they sent us some meals. They sent us a bunch of meals actually, and I had several of them. I had vegetarian options, I had meat options, I had keto options, I had all these different options, and I had a ton of their smoothies. So you talk about like a healthy snack. Now, while these smoothies aren't like, I wouldn't call them like, the most, low calorie, low sugar thing in the world. They're not intended to be. They're intended to satiate, give you that snack when you want it, but also have that healthy thing to it because it's all fruit in those smoothies. Now, meal wise, I had to say I had two that I loved. I had the roasted red pepper filet mignon. It has tortellini primavera and lemon garlic butter. It was so good. I had it. It was prepared in less than 5 minutes. Like I was ready to go in 5 minutes.
There you go.
And it meets my goal that I have, right? I got vacations coming up this summer. I'm trying to get back to college Chris. Chris was 210 pounds.
There you go.
Right. So I got 30 to lose just to give you a sense of where I'm at today. That's incredibly personal. Yeah, that's what we do in the Make It podcast. But that's what it is.
Yep.
But Factor allows me to do that. And I'm already on the way. Like I'm down 10 pounds already. I'm not saying it's because of Factor, but did they help? They sure did.
Wait. It's not because of Factor, but it's a factor.
It's a factor.
Just saying. Just saying. Well, I just got to say, if you want to get started with this, get on this journey that we're on, you can get started at factormeals.com/makeit50off. So that's make it, MAKEIT, the number 50 off, OFF. So make it 50 off. And you got to use that code, make it 50 off. So again, factormeals.com/make it50 off. And then when you're there, use the code make it 50 off and you're going to get 50% off. Right. It's already fantastic. Plus you get free shipping on your first box. Again, make it 50 off.
And now back to the show.
Yes, sir.
And we're back to the show.
That was a long and.
And the year 2000.
In the year 2000.
In the year 2000.
See, like Sam's like, what?
Shout out to Conan O'Brien. Sam has no idea what the hell we're talking about. That's an old bit from Conan O'Brien. Shout out to him. Producer Papa Bear, why don't you take us down the dark, twisted alleys of things we should know, where you lurk like a little troll under a bridge with riddles that we never ever can get. That you tell us, that you tell us easy, that you tell us we all should get, that any fool should know, and yet us fools never ever know.
All right,
give it to us, Papa Bear. Drop some things.
That's an intro. That's an intro.
Well, just before I get to it, I will say that our esteemed guests have the best chance of getting it, and more than likely will.
Okay.
But
this is the setup.
No pressure.
None at all. Don't worry about it.
Before we get to it, let me say that
sweat already.
The Things We Should Know segment is brought to you by the Make It podcast shop, found at cottonbureau.com, where we offer buttery soft T-shirts, long and short sleeved, as well as hoodies, both pull over and zip up. And we also offer hats and much more. Just go to cottonbureau.com and search for the Make It podcast and find your favorite apparel in a wide range of colors, many available emblazoned with your favorite cities like Los Angeles, New York, London, Toronto, Tokyo, Chicago, Atlanta, and of course, Nashville. Don't wait. Go to the Make It Podcast shop at cottonbureau.com and search for the Make It Podcast. Maybe one day we'll have one that says San Francisco.
Yeah, tomorrow.
There you go.
I will make one tomorrow, Papa Bear.
And Chris, I just love.
We've been to CineQuest. Our film made
Emblazoned, bro. That's my favorite.
Emblazoned is great. Emblazoned. What great copy.
Yeah, it's excellent.
Papa Bear. Didn't that copywriting class pay off?
Yeah, I wrote it with my left hand.
Yep.
Nice. Well done. Well played, good sir.
Well, here's the thing we should know. Will and Maho's film, Water for Life, follows 3 people working in the environmental field.
Okay.
All of them have received the Goldman Environmental Prize. And the Goldman Environmental Prize is often referred to, if not all the time, as the Green Nobel Prize.
Okay.
So my question is, who was the first person to be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for environmental work, and in what year?
Wow.
Is the answer on your T-shirt, Nick?
You
say the question
who
again.
wants to go
PB.
first?
No, stop. Papa Bear. Say the question. Just the end. Say the end one more time. Ask the question.
No cheating. Yeah.
Just the end.
Who was the first person to be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for environmental work, and in what year? So 2 parts, but
Okay. Can we get clues?
no.
Not even the year? Oh, no. That's
Look,
Well,
it's
that's
part of the question.
answer. I can.
Is it a man? Is it man or woman? Man or woman? And did it happen in the last 50 years, Papa Bear? Can we get that?
It's not a different game. 20 questions. It's a woman.
Okay. You don't have to answer the other one, but it's a woman. That's a huge hint.
Is it though?
Okay, I'm going to guess
Sam's
Jane
like,
Goodall.
oh yeah.
I'm guessing Jane Goodall.
I was thinking the same thing.
And I'm guessing 19. When did she do Gorillas in the Mist? Now I'm showing my ignorance. There's someone out there watching. It's like, you are so stupid. But I don't know. I can't remember Gorillas in the Mist. Like what year? I'm going to say 1981. I'm going to say 1981.
No, it's way before that.
Way before that. It's true. You're right. It's going to be way before.
And I don't know. I have no clue who this person is, but it was way before that. And
I'm writing down Jane Goodall.
It's someone that we should know, but we don't.
Okay, Chris says Jane Goodall. Nick says I can't do it.
I have no clue because it's just, yeah. Will, what you got?
Papa Bear gave a hint, I think, in pointing towards the Goldman Prize. And so for me, that was helpful. And I'm going to guess, because I honestly don't know for sure. But, well, you said it's a woman. I was going to say a man's name. Wangari Maathai from Nigeria, who planted like a couple of million trees. Is that correct? Wow. But I don't know the year. I have no idea.
Can you spell that, Will? I mean,
Wangari,
or get close?
Wangari Maathai, Wangari. I'm guessing Maathai, Matthai. Papa Bear.
Will, you're supposed to ask him to use it in a sentence first.
Okay, Maho, do you have a guess?
No, but
she's with me on this, bro. Like, nah, I'm good.
Okay, Sam, what are you thinking?
He said Jane Goodall.
Are you with me on Jane Goodall?
Jane Goodall's the only answer I could think of.
Do you know how many people work in this field, and the fact we only know the most famous person of all time it's really an indictment on me and you, Sam. Well, maybe more so on Nick because he.
No. I think more on you and Sam. You were correct.
I was correct the first time.
We'll play.
See, Sam, we have to go. We have to go high heads now.
All right, I'm ready. I'm ready for the answer, man.
Papa Bear. Well, it's Gwyneth Paltrow. Isn't she the one that makes the face creams, the natural face creams?
Yeah.
Or is that Jessica Alba?
She makes a lot of things.
Jessica Alba won it.
All right, PB.
We're going to have to give the Make It Podcast Golden Award to Will. Ooh. It was 2004 when Wangari Maathai of Kenya won it. However, here's the important part. 13 years earlier, in 1991, she won the Golden Environmental Prize for her work in reforestation and was the founder of the Green Belt movement.
Oh, my God. Shout out to Will.
Let's go. He got the clue. And figured it out.
She was also the first African woman.
Okay, go ahead.
There you go. She was the first African woman to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. And she was the first female scholar from East and Central Africa to receive a doctorate, which was in biology, and the first female professor ever in her home country of Kenya.
PB.
Wow.
I shouldn't even be surprised, but you did it again. That is definitely a thing we should know.
Well, I'm so glad we have a winner.
Or in Will's case, it's a thing he does know.
So. Exactly.
In fairness, if I hadn't been working, making films about Goldman Prize winners for 21 years, and Wangari came as a keynote speaker one year, and I got to meet her. She's a beacon of light. She's, light and love, and had a 50,000 watt smile that would light up any room. And sadly, she's no longer with us. But her daughter, whose name I'm forgetting, is carrying on her work in her footsteps, which is beautiful. And in fact, she's on the board at the Goldman Environmental Prize, which is pretty awesome. And so, she's a star. She's incredible. There's a doc out there about Wangari Maathai that I highly recommend. I don't remember the name of it. I'm sorry, but you'll find it. I'm sure there's only one. Well worth checking out her story.
Will, thank you for that. And I will check out some of her stuff. And I feel like through this conversation already, 3, 4, 5 doors that weren't open to me before this conversation have now been open. And it gives me space, and I hope everyone here, space to explore into those rooms and those corners we didn't know about. That is awesome. And thank you, PB, for putting in so much work on this as usual. And now I just have yet another factoid in my back pocket that makes me look smarter than I am. Which I've been doing my entire life. Just pretending.
The golden ruse.
Let me add
that
the
golden ruse.
To spell her last name, it's Maathai. It's a double A.
Okay.
Maathai.
Maathai.
Thank you. I double T'd it instead of double A'd it. So that's good.
Yep. Yeah.
That's fine.
All right. Nick, you want to drop us some filmmaker Q&A, sir?
Oh man, I'm ready. I'm just glad that again somebody got the answer. Somebody got the answer to the things we should know, and but yeah, I'm ready. And of course, before I get into my segment, I always want to plug our ebook, Mastering Film Marketing.
Have to,
and it's short. I'm going to say it's brief because even the book is short, right? But the main thing is, if you're a filmmaker out there, especially if you have your work on a streaming platform, they pay based on viewership, right? So in order to get paid, you have to have eyes on your work. How do you get eyes on your work? Marketing. It's the thing that filmmakers don't want to talk about, but they have to be about. So we have an ebook on our website, right? It's through Beacons. You can find the link below. That's the beautiful thing about YouTube, right? And our podcast platform. You can go into the show notes. Exactly. I can point to it. But yeah, you can go to those show notes. You can go, below in the YouTube video and just click the link and get Mastering Film Marketing. It is like the ebook that you didn't know you needed, but once you have it, you'll be happy. So just check that out. before we get into now, of course, the Filmmaker Q&A. So it's interesting because I had the questions and I had them lined up and I was going to go in a certain order, but now I'm going to switch the order a little bit based off the conversation. So
he almost kind of danced right there, didn't he? Kind of had a little jig to him, didn't he?
I mean, I got love in my heart, bro. I got love in my heart. You know, that means I always have
Music
a song in my
soul,
head.
Song in your head. I love it.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So, all right, the first one I'm actually going to do for Will. I want you to tell us about one of the most creative ways that you've found to raise money. Because I feel like that's what filmmakers need is, you know, they might know, you know, go to a wealthy person and try to get money, go to an aunt and uncle or whatever, you know, but I think that there's some things they need to learn a little bit of creativity. So one of the most creative ways you found to raise money.
I mean, this is a great question. I love it because I'm thinking of this unbelievable experience I had making my film, Neil Norman, by his own design, the Big Sur artist who was kind of a gay pioneer in his time, was produced with me by Michael Tucker and Jill Eikenberry, actors who achieved some fame in their lives. Probably most noteworthy, they were on LA Law, and they were beloved figures. They played a couple, and they've been in dozens of films. But, you know, their celebrity is, it's a beautiful thing because the characters are beloved, and when you're with them, everyone loves them. Right? Imagine, I think of Christopher Walken on the flip side. He says, I'm actually a really nice, funny guy, but I've been in all these roles and everyone thinks I'm cuckoo. And I'm constantly being confronted by kind of psychopaths or something. So this wonderful couple who wanted to make this film because they bought some property up the road from Emil actually, and built a house. When LA Law came to an end, they wanted to move to Northern California. And we're trying to raise money. And I had been doing some work for the American Himalayan Foundation, an organization based in San Francisco that helps people in the Himalayas on a variety of levels: cultural preservation, environmental preservation, refugee relief work, healthcare, education. And at their annual dinner, they had an auction. And they were auctioning things off that were kind of unique, like have dinner with Bernard Osher. Bernard Osher gives more money to the arts than anyone in the United States, if not in the world, and he doesn't like to make a big deal about it, so a lot of people don't know his name. Have dinner with Bernard Osher and his wife. And so we were brainstorming and coming up with all these ideas of what we were going to auction off. And when it was time, now the come on to this fundraising party was Michael and Jill were going to perform Love Letters. It's a play, a couple talking about their life together. And it can be done with them just sitting there. They don't need props. They don't need, they don't need costumes. They're great actors. When that ended, there was going to be the auction and then lunch. And I think people paid $250 a head to come to that event. And I said, well, Michael, you're the raconteur. You're the most charming person I know, and you can cajole anyone to do anything. You have to auction. You have to be the auctioneer. And he said, I'm not going to be the auctioneer. I will have just performed a 90-minute play. I'm going to be toast, You're going to be the one. And I'm like, what are you, crazy? I'm not going to be the auctioneer. And he said, who better? And so the idea, he said, you're going to be singing for your own supper, right? It's kind of this perfect thing. And so when I first got up after their performance, I'm not shy, but I was kind of chagrined looking out at 200 people. And I finally just realized, like the first thing we were auctioning off was Michael was going to cook dinner. He's a great cook. He was going to cook dinner, have dinner with Michael and Jill. And I was kind of being meek and timid. And then I looked in the back of the room and I just realized, I saw my wife and she kind of gave me, like she raised her eyebrows, like, pick it up. And I just started going for it. And I knew 90% of the people in the audience. And so I just started saying, come on, Nick, you can come in for $250. Let's start it big, and you'd say, okay, $250, fine. And I'd say, Chris, $500, $250. Nick, what's he doing? $500 at least. Michael and Jill, okay, $500. Papa Bear, what a joke. Come on. And so we ended up raising, I think, 60 grand. I think we raised 60 grand from the auction.
Holy moly.
And in no small part because we had great things to auction off, right? I mean, Emil gave a work of art. He was making figurative sculptures of animals at that point. He gave a work of art. The American Himalayan Foundation, in fact, because I comped their idea, gave tickets to a talk by the Dalai Lama, and you could go to a reception and, you know, and meet the Dalai Lama, say hello, whatever that was, right? So we had incredible things. So that's, I don't know if that's really what you wanted to hear from me, but that to me was the most exciting, creative, incredible, and boom, it's over, right? I mean, it's done, and no more messing around. You knew what you had. Of course, right? It took 6 weeks, a lot of planning, right? The caterers, the whole, you know, setting it all up. It's not as if it just happened, but still, it's that a lot of what we do is writing grants. And, you know, I think the percentage of grants that you get that come back positive, it's like the percentage is so low. You talked earlier about being married to a film and being all in on a film. You know, I always say every time we start making a new film, we have to suspend our disbelief in how difficult it is, because you'd have to have your head examined if you did it again. You know, particularly when you look at how much money you didn't earn at the end of making that film.
Yeah. But I think one of the great things about that, though, and I think it is very important, is back to, I think, what both of you were saying, especially Maho, about being out. Right? Because like you said, you knew the people in the audience. You could point to a face and you knew a name. You can't get that face, nor that name, nor that relationship without having cultivated those relationships out in the world. And
That's
you were
right.
also with an organization that was cultivating relationships out in the world. So you were part of something. And I think that's the key. And I think that's the key for our filmmaking audience, is that you have to be part of something, because that's when people want to be a part of what you are doing, because they see you as one of them. You're not an outsider. And I think it's a beautiful story for all of those reasons.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I know you probably don't want to hear another story, so I'll make it really short, because this is
love stories.
Of course we want stories. That's what we do here.
This is sparking something else. I was at an American Himalayan Foundation event when Sir Edmund Hillary died. Sir Edmund Hillary summited Mount Everest with Tenzing Norgay, the first two people to climb Mount Everest. When Sir Edmund Hillary died, and he was involved with the American Himalayan Foundation, and they were involved with his Himalayan Trust. They supported each other's work. And at this event, a couple came up and asked me what I did, and I told them, "Oh, filmmaker, how exciting. What film do you want to make next?" And I said, "You know, I keep hearing about this Tibetan kingdom of Mustang. The American Himalayan Foundation was doing work there, restoring the beautiful 14th century artwork that I talked about when I talked about the film earlier. I said, I want to go there and make a film. It's like this dream that I have." And they said, "Well, maybe we could help you. How much do you need?" And I said, $350,000. And they sort of gulped. And suddenly, like an arm came over my shoulder. And this person like snapped their card, you know, like a dealer, his business card. And he said, I won't say what he said. He just said, "Call my office on Monday and tell them that I said I was going to fund your film." And he did. And this guy was a millionaire, a multi-billionaire. So like that doesn't happen, right? That'll never happen again. It could.
But it did happen.
It happened that time.
Exactly. And it happened because I was donating my time to an organization who I believed in. I wasn't going with some ulterior motive. I was doing something that I cared about, that mattered to me. And as a result of being in an environment that I otherwise would never have been in, around people I would not, honestly, right? I'm not swimming in that same pool with them. And so suddenly there I was. So anyway, sorry to hog the time.
No, it's a beautiful story.
I love that story.
And I have to offer that, again, I've got many of these little mantras, if you will, but you know, we all know about this saying, "Ask and you shall receive."
Yeah.
Right? And I have a firm belief that what that means is that you have to put the things that you desire out there for people to hear.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Yeah.
Right. This isn't sending things into the stars or into the ether. Right. This is about putting it out there, because you never know who's willing to reach their arm over, flick that card and say, I got you. So that's awesome.
That's beautiful. And
that's
Maho
a great story.
Thank you. Maho did that with Leela Downs, getting Leela Downs involved with the film.
Yeah, asking, not being afraid to ask. If you are passionate about a project, the other person, when you're asking for a favor or support, they can read that, right? They can get that energy. And we wanted Leela Downs to sing the credit song for the credits of the film. And Will said, just email her, like find her. And that's something that I love, like just finding people. That's one of my favorite things to do. So I found her, but then I was being shy and I didn't know what to say. And Will was just like, ask. Like, there's no, in Spanish we say something, there's no engaño. I don't know how to say it in English, but just go out and
you
do
can
it.
say it
ask.
in Spanish.
No hay engaño en preguntar. Like, you ask and there's no wrong in asking, as long as you're being truthful. And she was like, yeah, sure, for free. Like, we're not offering any money, of course, because we have none. And she said yes. And she's been supporting, like, she did sing the song. We have a music video, and she's been supporting us with outreach and on social media. Thanks to her, we have like so many more viewers in our social media platforms that I don't think we would have achieved that without her or Diego Luna. Yeah, same thing. Will went out and asked Diego Luna's manager, I don't know, but we were like, Andor, like Diego Luna is Andor. To me, he's Andor. I call him Andor.
Yep, that's right.
Ask Andor to be the narrator of our film. And that's Will. I said, we're going to ask him. And if the worst thing can happen, he's going to say no. And he said yes. And like 2 days later, we flew to Mexico City and he recorded narration in English and Spanish like this. And so you have to have a little faith and just go for it. And people might say no, but maybe you get lucky and they'll say yes. So you have to be hustling.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
A salesman who I met from Compton. I was working on some, marketing. I was hired to make a corporate documentary. A salesman from Compton. They sold like bathroom products. And his motto to me, and I've carried this with me ever since. This was probably 25 years ago. Every no is one step closer to a yes.
It's true.
That's true.
Yep.
It's a sales mantra, actually. And, and I know this is your segment, Nick, but if you will allow me to interject here, I really think this is part of what we've talked about before, that the holy grail of marketing is word of mouth. And so if you can make something that's so good that people have to tell somebody else about it, this is kind of what we call network effect in the tech world, right? Word of mouth is the holy grail of marketing. Well, you have to also be your own word of mouth. What is the story that you tell about yourself to others? How good is the story you tell about yourself to others? Your storytelling ability is going to be aligned. Your temperament and your storytelling ability is aligned with your faith. And if you can tell a great story about yourself and what you're doing, people will buy in. That is the human way. We want to be part of what, Nick? A moving
train. That's right. That's right. So what's interesting about that is that
a train that stopped.
Right. So one of the interesting things is that, of course, my question from Maho, which he's already answered, was about Diego Luna and how they were able to get Diego Luna in here. So she already answered the question, which is great. But I also had a little bit of, I guess you could call it an Easter egg or something special in there for Chris, which is, do you know, Chris, that Diego Luna played Inigo Montoya?
I did not know that. I thought that was Mandy Patinkin.
It is Mandy Patinkin from the original movie, The Princess Bride. Mm-hmm. However, during COVID, when we could not escape and the actors could not escape, there was this thing called home movies. Mm-hmm. And several actors came together to make basically a remake of The Princess Bride. And each of the actors performed their part at their own home. and Diego Luna played Inigo Montoya in the home movies COVID version of The Princess Bride.
So that is huge.
Chris's favorite film.
So it's my favorite movie, and I already love this man because of this. Now, I'll have an Easter egg back to you, Nick. Did you know that Carrie Ells was doing a one-man show of The Princess Bride, going theater to theater? It was a theater one-man show that got canceled due to COVID.
This is amazing. Did he legitimately sword fight himself? Did that?
I had tickets to it. I was refunded my tickets. They were not cheap. Shout out to Carrie Ells. But I don't know. I think it was going to be more like him telling the story of it.
I just want to know how he pulled himself up off that cliff. I just want to see that.
If he did climb the cliffs of insanity during this play by himself, that would have been worth every penny.
That's a feat. All right. So now I'm going to switch it up, and I'm going to go to Maho. And here's the question. How do you manage your own mental health when filming the emotional struggles of others?
Do you have time?
I got time.
It's interesting. I think I don't really think a lot about myself when I'm doing the work, which I don't know if it's good or bad. But it's just about perspective. I mean, I'm pretty lucky. I have a home, I have a roof, I have a family, I have food, I have everything I need. So I think what affected me most is working in these stories. When I was in the field, it didn't affect me that much. I was just so entertained and also busy when you're filming. Like, there's no really that much time to think about your own. You're just like moving, especially producing, coordinating so many things and making scenes happening and making the characters stay on camera and just convince them to do a little bit more and feed them. Like, take care of everyone. You take care of people when you're producing. But I think the hardest part was editing, also during COVID. So it was a lonely process. Like, if it wasn't because of COVID, maybe Will and I would have been together and it would have been different. But being on your own, looking at this footage, it's not easy. I mean, there's a lot of like strong scenes, and the entire time that at least one of the characters, I mean, I don't want to give spoilers if people haven't seen the film, but these are hardcore stories, and it was giving me a little bit of anxiety, I have to say, and it was hard to stop thinking about it. And also, you have to be, I think, an obsessive person a little bit to work in film. Otherwise, you are not going to get it done. A little bit. So I would have dreams. It was really hard to disconnect. Like, for the entire time of the editing, I was just like looking at the footage all day and then dreaming about it and thinking about scenes, wait to edit, and then wake up in the middle of the night and like write down ideas, and then wake up in the morning and have conversations with Will. But the isolation plus seeing so much suffering, there were beautiful things happening too, but the suffering and feeling like I'm not doing enough. But at the time, I mean, at the end, we were doing enough. We made a film, and that was our contribution. We're filmmakers. I'm not an activist per se. It's hard editing on your own. I don't think I would do it again, be just completely on my own. I think it's good to work in community. So I don't know if I answered the question, but
no, that's good, because it's difficult.
It's difficult, but my way of coping, like I said at the beginning, I have like two personalities. One is the filmmaker and the other one is the dancer. So dancing for me, I do it like 3-4 times a week. And that's the only like meditation. I'm not a person that can like meditate and place and not do anything because my brain is always going. But when I'm dancing, my mind quiets and I just like follow the rhythm. And I do Afro-Cuban dance. We dance to drumming, and it's really soothing, and you forget about yourself and you're like in tune with other people. So I think it's good to do something else besides working, being on your computer, to reset, because otherwise can become really hard on you.
That's perfect.
I want to just add that, I'd never made a film remotely before. Actually, it's not true. I had made 2 Golden Prize films remotely prior to us beginning editing because of COVID. But that's different. They're short films. It's not the same, right? This was like an epic journey in the edit room. And it was difficult for me as it was for Maho, because I'm accustomed to being together with the editor. I'm also an editor. And things that I know if we were together, we would have worked out, even if it had taken 4 hours, we would have worked it out. Could literally, this sounds crazy, could take a week or more, because we didn't always address the problem that we were trying to solve right at that time. We would talk about it, and then we would each have to do other things, and we'd come back to it, and you kind of lose the thread and the focus. And so it was laborious. There's no question about it, and lonely. Sarah Cass, I want to give a shout out, was our writer, and Sarah was, I would say, an equal teammate in the edit with Maho and I, because she's, some people wonder, like, what is a writer doing? Well, yes, she wrote narration. We have narration, but that comes way late in the process. She's looking at the interviews. She's looking at the footage. She's helping us find the through line. And because she can be stepping back and has a big picture, right? Good writers are really smart, and they're always thinking, alternately, from way back, 1,000 miles away, and then microscopically. And so Sarah started calling it, the edit, death by 1,000 cuts, because the length of time and the laborious nature of that process of not being able to be together. But we got there, and it was a whole other thing. And again, Ford Foundation was supportive. They ended up giving us more money because it took longer to edit, which meant it cost more money to edit, and they completely understood and were supportive. So I can't give them enough cred for what they did, and Chiwe in particular, who I've already mentioned. But so anyway, just wanted to share that.
Yeah, we appreciate that, and you guys can see, right behind me on my wall there, that's my Legos that I do, right? So my thing is, like, sometimes it's just, I do enjoy going out and doing things. Like, I love if I can get out to the soccer field and go play soccer, right? That's awesome. Being in the community, I lose myself in that space.
Shout out to Chelsea's big win.
Yeah, Chelsea got that trophy. But it's just, I get out there and I have fun. And I honestly, I lose myself. I mean, there are people out there that I play with that get so pissed, about, not getting the ball and all this. They get all mad, and I'm joking with them and I'm hugging them. And it's just like, it's okay. Like, we're here to have fun. But sometimes retreating into myself, right, with a bunch of Legos and a plate and just quiet. And usually I do have soccer on, to be honest.
The plate has Kraft and cheese slices.
That's the other plate. But sitting there with that Lego plate and just making something on your own, it is that thing that kind of just, it's that release that you need. So it's great to hear that you have something too. All right.
Yeah. And so I want to just thank you for having that PBS Lego back there, by the way. I did notice.
Oh yeah, man.
So thanks.
See, yeah, I knew he was going to see that. Yeah, I knew he was going to see that.
I've been meaning to mention it. There was no eloquent way to do it other than to just jump in there and say thank you.
Gave you a segue, man. No worries, All right. So the last one that I have, I think, both of you can talk about this, and it's good because I think, Will, you actually mentioned this earlier about the spaces in between projects. So the question is really simple. Is documentary filmmaking alone a sustainable career, or do you have to take on other projects or other work in general?
Yeah, I feel lucky that I have been able to do it. I've been able to make films my entire professional career. I have not had to do anything else. And it's not to denigrate any other work that anyone has to do. I know I'm very lucky. Part of the reason I was able to do that is because my partner, John Antonelli, when we started making the Kerouac film, John grew up in a family of 7 with 1 bathroom and probably only 4 bedrooms. He had to learn to be very
resourceful.
Thank you. Thank you for helping me out. He had to be very resourceful and to do a lot with a little. And John's noticed after 6 months, when you're working sometimes and I'm not, I'm working on propelling the Kerouac film forward and vice versa. So why don't we create a cooperative venture where we partner and we just put everything in to the pot and we support each other that way, because we each had work that we would do. In the San Francisco Bay Area at that time, there was a lot of advertising work and there was public relations. There were huge public relations firms. So, you were making films like that. They paid really well and it was a chance to hone your craft, and it wasn't totally soulless. It was moving forward. And, there's independent feature projects. So I've been lucky to do a little bit of everything, but it's difficult. It's really difficult. I mean, I didn't pay myself more than once on Water for Life because I had other paying work and I wanted to keep the project going forward and paying everyone else. And I'm not saying that to say, oh, look at me. It might be, oh, look at me. What a nutcase, that I did that. You would say that's not sustainable, but that's how I was able to sustain it and to keep it going. And it's not like anyone got wealthy working on the film, but it was more important to keep pushing it forward. So,
gotcha. Okay.
It's challenging.
Yeah, to say the least. Maho, you have any thoughts about that?
I have done other things.
You mentioned you were a fixer. I was like, she's like Liam Neeson or something.
I love a good. No, everybody needs a good fixer. I would love to have a personal fixer that just travels with me everywhere. Not just when you're doing, out of country locales. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, hire Maho then for whatever your needs.
Yeah. Patient scouting. I love being out in the field. So if there's a project that requires me going to take pictures or find locations or find characters, that's my happy place. Go explore But I'll do other things. I do research for and write articles. I make short documentaries for friends that are scholars, for education, or for nonprofits. Whatever. But I never know what's happening in the next. Water for Life was the most stable job that I had, I would say, ever. It's usually one project and then I don't know what's coming, but there's always something coming so far. So I'm thankful, and some people don't know how I do it. They're like, I don't know how you can live with that uncertainty. And right now, because everything that's happening, it's a little bit more worrisome because before I would say, let's apply for this grant, but it doesn't exist anymore. Let's apply for this funding. Doesn't exist anymore. Right. Usually like public television, ITVS, like we don't know what's going to happen. National Endowment for the Arts. So it's time to get creative. But I'm not afraid. I grew up, as I said before, during a dictatorship. My mother couldn't finish the university because history, it was banned. It was banned to study history or art, or film schools were closed. I was one of the first generations to study film after being back to democracy. So, my parents had to work odd jobs. I did too. I came here as an immigrant, so I walked dogs. I worked in construction. I didn't speak English. So I just have to remind myself that I've come a long way. I got a master's degree. My parents didn't get to do that. So just have to be thankful and go out in the world, because things are not, sometimes things come to you, but you have to look for them and think about this and like, I'm not going to say pray. Some people will pray, but say, this is what I would like to do, and just think about it. And sometimes it will manifest. And if not, it wasn't meant to be. That's the way that I think. So, but right now I think it's time to, making a film might be important, but there's so many other ways to make our world better right now. So I think I'm also open to do other things, but it's more about like giving and making a good impact in the world right now than a personal project.
Yeah, I think what's important too, right? And Maho she's multi-talented, right? We have many skill sets, and so I think it's important to like ply your trade that way, which is maybe different in the feature film world, right? Because this is what I do, and so you kind of, you're kind of channeled. But in the doc world, right, I shoot and I edit. Maho shoots and she edits, right? And I write and I produce. And so when I talk about I never had to do any other work other than film, it wasn't that it was always documentary, right? But that I was just putting myself out there all the time and constantly, it's not like you're thinking you're networking. We're social people, and there's a great social film world here, and getting out amongst it and talking to people and finding, you find your tribe. Like you find the people you really connect with from the heart and the mind, and then you start working together. It just sort of starts to happen. But it is scary now because all this funding has been cut. And I know 5 filmmakers who had major National Endowment for the Humanities grants cut, as well as arts organizations that manage those grants, and NEA. And that's a small sample. I forget how many projects were cut. And so there's a lot of uncertainty and fear right now in the documentary film community in Northern California because everyone knows there are all these funding cuts and what's going to happen, right? And again, it's not as if anyone's getting wealthy doing it, but now everyone's wondering how they're going to make a living doing it. And, I'd like to think that, the Barney Oshers of the world are going to step forward and try to make things happen. And now it's on us to go and find those people. And so that's the next challenge.
Well, that's your part-time job, Will. Your part-time job is fundraiser. So
no question.
Well, it reminds me, Nick, too, of what the thing we always say: no mercenaries. Right? You go out and you find your tribe. You play long-term games with long-term players, and you're hoping to make ever better films, which goes back all the way back to the beginning of our conversation when we talked about being married to the things you create. And when we first started, Nick, it was like, hey, I hope they make a good thing. And when we were just strictly investors, and then as we went along, we realized, oh shit, we're married to this thing. It's got to be great. Yeah, like we need to our name is on this. We need to make really, really, really good, films. And one thing you said, Maho, about Pinochet and like that time that really stuck out is you talked about all the things that were taken away, and some of them might be sort of non-intuitive, oh, you can't study history. We here need to pay attention to those little signs and those things that happen. Because I don't know when it was, but I think it was because I think it was just yesterday, PB, that Rubio took away someone's work visa because they wrote an op-ed article. Hold on now. That's pretty close to taking away your history. Okay.
Oh, it's First Amendment.
Yeah. Well, also, it's you wrote a freelance article for a publication that's credible, and that costs you your work visa. So we got to pay attention. Maho brought it up, and she's spot on. We got to pay attention to some of these things and make sure that we're fighting the good fight. And you guys certainly have.
I want to say one more thing.
Yeah, please do. Yeah. Please.
Yeah, one thing that I just told my daughter this morning, because I was trying to have her read a book. She's on break right now, summer break, and I was like, "Can you just read a book and not watch TV all day, please?" She's like, "But what?" And I was like, "There's a list of books that have been banned if I was you, I would go look for that list and start reading those books, because those are probably the most interesting books out there. So, yeah, like, not because things are banned means that we can't do them. I mean, if they're illegal, of course, I'm not calling people to do illegal things, but just question your surroundings, have critical thinking, especially now. Like, I think about you, Sam, you're going to film school, and it's the landscape is changing, but it has always been changing, right? And filmmaking has always been changing. When I studied film, we shot in 16 millimeters. We finished, and then there's VHS, and then there's Betacam, and like, things are always changing, but the message is what's important. And if you don't have the funding, maybe you have the passion, and the funding will come later. Yeah, it's not to despair. Things have always been, some of the greatest movies have been made under the worst, terrible circumstances. So we have to keep going, be curious, creative, and not complacent. Yeah.
No, that was great. And, Sam was on set with me this weekend, and we had it was interesting because we made do with what we had. My wife provided lunch one day along with, with some crafty on one of the shoot days, just for example. So that's just scrapping it together, right? But at the same time, because we had been working on this for we'd worked on this story for 2.5 years. Because we'd worked on it for 2.5 years, we also had the preparation for the technical shoot side. So we had the luxury of shooting on anamorphic lenses. Like, this thing is going to be beautiful. And it's a little bit of that, like, don't be complacent. Like, we're going to scrap through it. And Sam got to see that firsthand this weekend, along with some of his colleagues and teammates. You guys are amazing. This has been an incredible conversation. And like we do at the end of every podcast conversation we have, we like to ask our guests, what does it mean to make it? And Maho, we can start with you, and then we'll end it with you.
To make it, to be proud of what you're doing, proud of your work. If you're not proud and you're doing something that you don't like, to me, it's not worth it. So, to me, to make it, even if it's hard, I'm doing something that I love, something that I believe in.
I love that answer. I don't even know if we've gotten that before, Nick.
Yeah, it's great. That's it. All right, Will.
I mean, I'm kind of with Maho, but I think, making it means telling stories that matter to me and that I think matter to the world, and showing people creating positive change in the world, and, going up against adversity. That's really important to me, that I've been able to tell those stories. That feels like making it, and that I keep finding audiences for the work. We talked about it not being about money, so we can't emphasize that enough. And some would say perhaps that's not being successful, but I think that's not the case. I think we've made it because we get to tell stories about exemplary human beings who are creating positive change in the world, and we do it as a family with a group of people like Maho on this film, Rick Tejada Flores, my fellow producer, Stephen Talbot, our senior producer, Christopher Hedge, our amazing composer, Vicente Franco, our cinematographer, Sarah Cass, our writer, and all of our partners in every country. Like, this is a family, and everyone is proud to have worked on the film. And as we hear back from everyone who worked on the film, how happy they are with it, not just the people in front of the camera, but everyone behind the camera. So, that's it. It's the community that we've created to tell these stories that matter to us and that we think matter to the world. So that's making it for me.
I really relate to that. I know Nick does too. That is beautiful. And you did make, both of you and the whole team, shout out to everybody involved that you just named, made a beautiful, beautiful film in Water for Life. Can you tell everybody where they can watch it, where they can buy it, how to support, and where they can contact you directly if they have questions?
Yeah, sure. The film is currently streaming on PBS. So if you go to pbs.org and look for Water for Life, you'll find the film, also through the PBS app. The film is being distributed by Bullfrog Films, which is for educational, library, community screenings, non-theatrical. And Bullfrog Films is out there. If you just go to Bullfrog, you'll find Water for Life. Our partners in the film include Amnesty International. They're our impact partner, so they're pushing information out about the film. The RFK Center, which is, RFK the father, not the son, and it's a human rights organization, and they created a study guide for the film, so they're helping us push it out. And we're honestly looking for a streaming deal for international distribution. We know the film has an audience in Latin America. We've screened throughout Latin America and seen the response, as well as in Europe, particularly in Romance language, countries, not just Spain, but Italy, France, and so forth. So we're looking for that right now. So if anyone out there has any advice or knowledge or contacts or an interest, and my company website, it's the Mill Valley Film Group, so mvfg.com. And Maho has her own website, which I don't know you to call out that URL.
MajoCalderon.com.
Okay.
Thanks so much for having us on. This has really been a pleasure. Love you guys. Love the conversation and what you're doing. Thank you all so much. Really appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you guys. I mean, this is awesome. This is the conversation we expected, right, Chris? This is it. This is awesome.
It is fantastic. So you guys heard it here first. Go watch, support, do anything you can to support Water for Life and the cause behind the film. You can go to mvfg.com and support there. And then you can also go to mahocalderon.com as well to reach out to these guys directly. And now, before we end the show, a couple of surprises, a couple of things. First things first, Papa Bear has been superimposed over a false background. And throughout this episode, it has been teasing you, Will. It has been teasing you because this is a bar you have been to, and his head is actually blocking you. So if you want to talk about how meta this is, you are in the picture that is Papa Bear's digital background this entire episode and didn't realize it. That is you sitting at the bar, Will. And I'll tell you why in a second. We'll hold on to that. We'll hold on to that. We'll let you respond to that. Actually, go ahead. Say what you want to say.
Where the heck is it? I'm just trying to figure out where it is.
No, don't tell him, Papa Bear.
Don't tell him. Don't tell him yet. Don't tell him yet. Yeah, but we'll get to that. Chris, we got to let people know. They let people know how to find them. How about you let our people know how to find us?
Well, before I do that, before we do that, guess what? I have one more thing, Nick.
Oh my
goodness. This is
don't say it.
Last episode
of what?
For the time being, for one intern Sam. I'm excited. I am proud of you for what you have going on and what's looking ahead for you, what's coming for you. But I'm also saddened because you've been such a big part of the podcast over the last year, and nothing but a positive force and impact on the podcast. So, Sam, do you want to say a few words as this is your swan song, as it turns out?
Yeah, no, I'd love to. I'm as we mentioned a couple times, I'm going off to film school at Belmont, and so with that, I'm departing, unfortunately. And I really just want to take a second and say thank you to Chris and Nick and Papa Bear for giving me this opportunity. I've loved working here. I've loved being a part of the team, interning. I've learned so much, being a part of the podcast from, people working in the industry that I love and want to be a part of. And so for that, I'm so grateful and really, truly thank you. I've come out of my shell a lot. This has been something that I've really looked forward to and enjoyed. And I've definitely seen changes in my personal life and how I interact with people. So I just want to extend gratitude there. I'm extremely proud of the work that's been done while I've been here. I really am. When I started, we had 400 subscribers on YouTube, and
yes.
now we're nearing 150,000. So
yeah, man.
little growth,
Just
a
little bit.
So,
all because of you, Sam.
That's right.
No, I didn't want to say it, but I'm so proud of that, and to be a part of that has been incredible. And something that I'll carry with me, as the start of my journey, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, man, no, this is tricky. This is a really tricky decision. And so I definitely, this isn't, we've been saying it in the Slack or whatever, but this isn't, goodbye. It's a see you later. I definitely want to still be a part of things. I want to, pop out on the podcast every once in a while, and who knows, I might be back in the future, but
who knows?
Hopefully at the very least I could come back as a guest in 10 years or something, that'd be pretty cool. But
that would be awesome.
Yeah,
you're always welcome.
No, thank you. No, that means a lot, and I've loved my job curating the polls. I've taken that very seriously, and I was glad to drop 2 more final polls tonight.
2 final polls, good ones too.
Yes,
yeah,
right.
No,
That's right.
Confounding ones.
Yeah, no, I but yeah, man, no, this has been great, and thanks again, and thanks for everyone who's tuned in to the Make It podcast while I've been here. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I'm going to do a real quick call back to our guest, Brad Starks, and say, we're saying farewell to Big Sam. Big Sam. Cheers to Big Sam. You got to do big things, do great things there. Cheers, Big Sam. Okay, you're not intern Sam anymore. You graduated.
That's
okay,
right.
Big Sam. All right.
Perfect. Shout out to Brad Starks. We love you, bud. Love you guys too. And by the way, for the audience, if you're watching this podcast, guess what? You already are in the right spot. You know what to do. Right. Subscribe, like, share, all those things. Now, we do have this on audio on Spotify and Apple. Perhaps you want to go over there, enjoy us during your drive. You can do that. Just search for the Make It podcast. We're on Apple and Spotify. You'll find us. If you happen to do that, guess what helps us out? 5 stars.
Let's go.
5 stars.
Let's do it.
1, 2, That's 3, right. 4, 5th. 5 stars is what helps us out. Please do that. But by the way, if you started on audio, if you're listening to this right now on Apple or Spotify or whatever, come on over to YouTube. It's warm over here.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's warm. The heat's on. Oh, actually, summertime. Air conditioner's on. It's cool. It's nice. Right. You know what I mean? I think you'll like it over here. We have a lot of stuff going on this platform. A lot of community engagement, as Sam mentioned a moment ago. So come on over here and join us on YouTube on the Make It podcast. Papa Bear mentioned before, we've got gear at cottonbureau.com. Just search for the Make It podcast there. If you want to find all of our links to all of our stuff, just go to beacons.ai/the Make It podcast, and you can find us on beacons.ai there. Really great platform. If you want to reach out to us directly, you can do that on any social media network at _Make It podcast. So do that today. We respond to 100% of those DMs, whether it be on Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook, you name it, we are there.
Yep, okay. DMs and comments. So engage in the comment section.
100,000%, sir. Nick, with that being said, can you please, por favor, leave us with the credo?
Ooh. Look at you. Look at you. Well done. Well played. That's right. I like it. So, yes, of course, I love it. I love this conversation. I appreciate everybody who is here. It's good to be amongst family. We often say amongst friends, but this is family. We are connected through the universe, whether we know it or not, we can feel it. And this conversation just goes to show it. So appreciate you guys for joining us today. Will, Maho, this was a pleasure and it was a blast. And with that, I'll have to say to our filmmaking friends, family, fans, and followers out there, be better, be creative, be engaged.
And thank you for listening. Nick, talk to you again soon.
Yes, sir. We'll do it again.
All right. Will, Maho.
Love you guys.
Love you guys. It was a pleasure.
Appreciate you so much.
Papa Bear, Sam. Love you too.
One last time.
One last time.
Yeah, man.
Peace.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Peace.
If you're a podcast host, listen up, this one's for you. My name is Allie Jackson. I'm the host of Finding Mr. Height, a dating and relationship podcast that I've been doing for 4 years now, sharing my positive and practical approach to dating that's built on my own life experience. And I wanted to share another experience that I've had, my secret behind monetizing my show. It's called Red Circle, and I was just telling my colleague about how much I love their platform. With Red Circle, not only am I getting a seamless hosting experience, but I also love the support I receive in ad sales. It's not just typical ad sales either. It's targeted opportunities based on my show and my life. And the platform is super simple. You just set your preferences and Red Circle matches you with sponsors that align with your show. You can vet every opportunity and their platform gives you great analytics. More recently too, my Red Circle team has brought me opportunities outside of my podcast on social media to really augment the podcast partnerships, bring them full circle. I just can't recommend them enough. If you want to give it a try, go to redcircle.com to get your free trial. That's redcircle.com for a free trial.